All right. I did this on QCW Radio last Saturday. Some people asked me to do a video about it, so here it is. Now, considering what we know by now about what stars from the past may or may not be there on January 4th, this is me booking what would be the best that we could hope for. I mean, believe me, I don't want Scott Hall and Sean Waltman to show up. I mean, even Rob Van Dam I'm a little weary of, but since it's heavily rumored that they are going to be there, then I'm booking what I think TNA should do with them on January 4th. And this is going to have to be the abridged version because the whole thing is just too damn long to do in one video. But if you want to hear the long version, go to blogtalkradio.com/QCW radio and download episode 60. Anyway, the show begins with AJ Styles already in the ring. He hypes up the show as a huge night for TNA. He says that Bobby Lashley is cashing in his world title shot tonight. So the first thing we do is we set up the main event immediately. Then AJ goes into work shoot mode. He's talking about Hogan and his mysterious plans for TNA. AJ says he's heard a lot of good things, he's heard a lot of bad things, and he's heard things that scare the hell out of him. And he says that right now he doesn't know what to think because Hogan hasn't said a word about it to him, and that pisses AJ off because he's the World Heavyweight Champion. He should know what's going on at all times. He says that there's a lot of familiar faces in the back right now. Some of them he's happy to see, some of them he's not happy to see, but they're all there because of Hogan. So he questions Hogan's motives about bringing some of these people back, and he wonders if Hogan's talk about coming in to help the young talent and help TNA was all just a big lie. He says that Hogan owes everyone an explanation. Then Kevin Nash comes out. He introduces Scott Hall. Scott Hall comes out. They say that things are about to change in TNA, and AJ can either be a part of that or they can send him packing. They say that Hogan wants to take out all the young talent that doesn't want to play ball with him, and the band is getting back together, blah, blah, blah. And also, they're cashing in Nash's Feast or Fire tag team title shot tonight. Cut to commercial. We come back from the commercials, and we have our first match of the night. It's Sarita and Taylor Wilde defending the Knockout Tag Team titles against Awesome Kong and Hamada. Now, the match goes just long enough to show you what these four women are capable of together without giving too much away. And then Kong goes batshit crazy on the babyfaces, getting herself DQ'd in the process. Then she awesome bombs the referee for DQing her. She sets up Sarita and Taylor on a table. Then Hamada does her moonsault, puts both of them through a table. Right there, we got our first match set for Genesis. Then we go to a backstage interview with Tracy Brooks. She's talking about the New Year's Eve knockout show, what an honor it was to be a part of it, yada yada. But then she's interrupted by Alyssa Flash. Alyssa is pissed off that she wasn't booked for the New Year's Eve show, and that she lost a chance to win a title shot. They start arguing. Alyssa beats the piss out of Tracy and gives her a kudo driver on the concrete. Cut to commercial. We come back. We do a backstage segment where Eric Young confronts Scott Hall and Kevin Nash about the tag team title shot against the British Invasion tonight. Nash says that he's basically just been playing Eric Young for a fool these last few weeks. He was never on Eric's side to begin with, and now he and Hall are taking the tag titles. Then he says that he's gotten word from high up in TNA management, basically talking about Hogan, that Eric Young has to defend the global title tonight or else he'll be stripped of the belt. Now Eric asks who his opponent will be, and then Sean Waltman jumps him from behind. Then all three of those guys lay out Eric Young until the British Invasion make the save. Next match, Scott Steiner and Rhino versus Matt Morgan and Hernandez. Border toss, carbon footprint, 1, 2, 3. Afterward, Morgan and Hernandez get on the mic. They say that if Hogan wants to run all the young guys out of TNA, then he does it over their dead bodies. Backstage interview with Hall, Nash, and Sean Waltman. Waltman basically says that Hogan brought him back and that they're taking over TNA and everything that happens tonight is because of Hogan. Cut to commercial. We come back to an interview with Kurt Angle. He talks about Hogan arriving at the building any minute. He hypes up the main event of AJ versus Lashley and says that the winner gets Kurt Angle for the world title at Genesis. Eric Young comes out for his title defense. He's selling the beating from earlier, with the announcers telling us that the World Elite have been banned from ringside. Eric cuts a promo saying that the World Elite took out the last group of has-beens who thought they could run this company, and they can take out Hogan and his group of has-beens too. He yells at Sean Waltman to bring his geriatric ass to the ring, and then his opponent comes out. But it's not Sean Waltman. No. It's the Pope D'Angelo De Niro. We do a quick cut backstage where Waltman is arguing with a bunch of TNA agents. They tell him that somebody must have misled him or something because he is not booking this match like he thought he was. Pope wins the match, new global champion. JB tries to interview him after the match to get some answers about what's going on here. He just repeats what Waltman said earlier, that everything that happens tonight is because of Hogan. Backstage, we show Hulk Hogan's car arriving at the arena. We cut to commercial. Now, right now, it's about 8:55 p.m., give or take a minute or two. So when Hogan is entering the Impact Zone, it's about 9:59, just before Raw goes on the air. This is important. Anyway, Hogan says that Dixie Carter has put him in charge of the show. He's going to be TNA's new Director of Authority from now on. He talks about all the mistakes that he made in WCW, backstage politics, holding young guys back, basically getting really candid because no one's going to expect him to do this. And then he says that when his whole life kind of fell apart over the last few years, he felt that this was karma finally catching up with him. Well, his son going to prison and the public nasty divorce and all that other crap. Anyway, he says that he came to TNA to make up for all his past mistakes. He wants to help the young talent. He wants to help the company get to the next level. And then he makes his first match, a four corners match at Genesis for the #1 contendership to the world title. Matt Morgan versus Hernandez versus Daniels versus Desmond Wolfe. After the commercial, AJ Styles does another interview. He says he's encouraged by what Hogan said, but something about this situation just isn't adding up completely, and he's a little bit suspicious. He hypes up his match with Lashley. Then we go to a backstage segment where Sean Waltman is pissed off. Hall and Nash calm him down, saying that Hogan is on their side, and he's working some kind of angle here. Next match, Amazing Red defending the X Division title against Homicide, Suicide, Jay Lethal, and Consequences Creed. Amazing Red wins. He celebrates with the title belt. And then some unfamiliar music hits the loudspeaker, and Rob Van Dam appears on the stage. Cut to commercial. We come back. JB is trying to get an interview with Rob Van Dam backstage. RVD says it's him versus Amazing Red for the X Division title at Genesis, and if he wants more information than that, he's going to have to talk to Hogan. We go to an interview. Desmond Wolfe and Daniels, they're doing an interview where they talk about all the craziness that's going on on the show right now. They hype up their match at the pay-per-view. Next match, Tara versus ODB for the Knockouts title. It ends in a DQ when Alyssa Flash hits the ring and destroys both of them with a steel chair and holds up the belt. There's our Knockouts title match for Genesis. Cut to a backstage interview with Bobby Lashley and Crystal Lashley. They hype up the main event and Lashley's chances of winning the title. Cut to commercial. Next, we have our tag team title match, British Invasion versus the Outsiders. But before the bell rings, Hogan comes out. He says he's making some changes to this match. It's now a triple threat with the Motor City Machine Guns. The Guns win the match by pinning Kevin Nash, Motor City Machine Guns, and new tag team champions. Cut to commercial to let that sink in. When we come back, the Guns are still in the ring. They're celebrating finally winning the tag titles. The announcers hype this up as a big deal, 3 years in the making, whatever. And then all of a sudden, two guys jump out of the crowd and attack them. That's right, it's the newest members of the TNA roster, the Young Bucks. There's our tag title match for Genesis. We go to an interview with Samoa Joe. He says he'll be watching the main event very closely, and he teases when he'll be cashing in the Feast or Fire title shot. We cut to Hall and Nash. Now they're pissed off. They don't know what the hell's going on. We cut to Foley and Jarrett discussing the whole situation. They both think that Hogan has some kind of agenda here, but they're not sure what it is. Main event time. AJ Styles versus Bobby Lashley for the world title. Kurt Angle sitting in on commentary. AJ wins the match clean. Him and Angle stare each other down afterward. Last commercial break of the evening. We then come back. Jarrett and Foley are in the ring. They're calling out Hogan. Hogan comes out to join them. They say that basically they just don't trust Hogan. Jarrett thinks he's lying about everything because Hogan might say that he wants to help the young talent, but at the same time, he brought in Scott Hall, Sean Waltman, and Rob Van Dam for some reason. And Jarrett and Foley both think that he's got some kind of ulterior motives at play here. Jarrett says that Hogan has claimed that he's wanted to help the young talent in the past, and every single time, it turned out to be a pack of lies, and no one knows that better than him, and he brings up Bash at the Beach 2000 as a reference point for this. So Jarrett says he's not going to let Hogan destroy TNA just like he destroyed WCW, but then Hogan says that the whole reason that Dixie Carter brought him in the first place is because she was afraid that Foley and Jarrett were going to destroy TNA. Foley because he'd proven himself to be a complete, unstable nutcase over the past year, and Jarrett because he was letting his personal issues behind the scenes tear the company apart, meaning the stuff with Kurt Angle that they've already teased in previous weeks. Anyway, Jarrett and Foley realize that they're not going to be able to come to any kind of understanding here, so Foley says that Hogan has left them with no other choice. He signals to someone behind, to somebody like out in the crowd or something, and then Abyss jumps into the ring. He hits the black hole slam on Hogan. All three of them beat Hogan down, and then Kurt Angle charges the ring, makes the save. Jarrett, Foley, and Abyss back off, and just when you think that Kurt Angle is going to take on all three of these guys by himself, we hear that familiar music. Sting appears on the stage, and the show fades to black with the announcers wondering what side of this fight is Sting going to be on. And that's how I'd book the January 4th Impact show.